Question: have you seen Challengers? And yes, there is a right answer to this. While there's still a lot of films to see this year, like Anora, Sonic 3, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Sonic 3, currently Challengers is my favorite film of the year so far. There's one thing about it that I cannot shake. I'm talking about the scene before the studio animations come on. Two super sweaty dudes and an excited Zendaya. At that point, I was already sold on the film. I leaned forwards, and when the techno score kicked in 2 minutes after that, I won't say what I did, but let's just say it's bad cinema etiquette. Similar to a great title sequence, it pumps you up and sets the tone for what's to come. And just a month before that, Dune 2 did a very similar thing. Before the studio logos come up, we're greeted with a black screen, and we hear it catches you off guard, even though, well, catches you off guard the first time around because the first Dune does the same thing. When a film starts like that, it doesn't just demand for your attention, it already has it in a chokehold in the first second without even showing you a single frame of the film. It transports you to that world. Of course, it also helps that the chant is just a masterwork in sound design. One of, if not my favorite Marvel intro, does the same thing. I'm talking about Iron Man 3. Regardless of how you feel about the film, I think the intro is pretty strong. The film opens with a shot of Iron Man suits exploding, overlaid with a voice note from Tony Stark struggling to talk about his inner demons, whilst we hear a dramatic string section playing in the background. It's a pretty intriguing start, and then we hear this.
Yo, listen up.
I'm Blue by Eiffel 65 starts playing as the studio animations come on. Not just the Marvel Studios logo, but also Paramount, which I forgot that was a thing. I was 14 and already obsessed with that track, and in that moment, that track, I'm Blue by Eiffel 65, felt more epic and profound than ever. It's a great intro highlighting the contrasting tones we are met with in the film. When trying to think of more films that have a scene before the studio animations come on, I felt stumped. I couldn't think of many others, and online I also couldn't find more. So please, if you know any, leave them in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to find more. I love it when films break a certain tradition or format that we're used to, and one of them is what this video is about. I'm talking about late movie titles, and I'm talking late. I love it when a film has a stellar cold open that hooks me in immediately and makes me turn to my friend in excitement, or even nod to the screen. Do you ever do that? Do you ever just nod to the screen like, yeah? But dropping a late title card is amazing. It's rare, unexpected, and also unmatched. The way it pumps me up, I don't know how I could describe in an appropriate way, but I can somehow hear you asking me, how late are we talking here? Let's start small. With our first example, my favorite Coen Brothers film, although if you were to ask me tomorrow it would be something else, Raising Arizona. And also tomorrow I'm pretty sure it's a Serious Man. The film starts with an opening montage narrated by our protagonist H.I. McDonough, played by a very young Nicolas Cage. The montage goes on for a whole 11 minutes before we're introduced to the title. It seamlessly sets up his character, who's a convenience store robbery addict, how he met his wife at his mugshot, his proposal after leaving prison, their happy days, and then not so happy days, which leads to the premise of the film. A happily married couple that is not so happy after realizing they can't have a baby. So they decide to steal one from someone who has one too many. The opening is set at a breakneck pace, firing gags at you left, right, and center, whilst also establishing the characters, the premise, the tone, and style of the film. Once the title hits the frame at the end of it, you're smiling from cheek to cheek, ready to let yourself go in the arms of the master filmmaking brothers. The next film on the list is a less fun one. Or just not a fun one. Pretty disturbing one. It's Midsommar. Although the film progressively gets more and more deranged, I don't think it ever reaches the unnerving height of its opening. Also referenced in the mural appearing in the very beginning of the film. The first frame, actually. The opening is super tense, detailing the horrific family murder-suicide Danny's sister commits, that then becomes the driving force behind Danny and her decisions later on. Even before anything scary even happens at the retreat, you're already on edge, sharing her trauma from the opening. When the camera zooms through the window to reveal the title at the 12th minute, as Danny is hysterically crying in the background, I knew in that moment I was in for something, and my friends were going to be absolutely pissed at me for taking them to go see this instead of, I don't know, having a chill one on a Saturday. It's a great opening and a title sequence. It's one of my favorites in recent memory. It immediately gets you under your skin and leaves you shaken for the rest of the film. Okay, enough with the 12 minute mark, I hear you say. Okay. How about my next offer? We're looking at 16 minutes with 127 hours. And I know you're thinking, 127 hours? 16 minutes? That's not late. But that's where you're wrong. It's the title of the film, not the runtime. This is commercial cinema filmmaker Danny Boyle, not Bela Tarr. This title card does one of my favorite things a title can do: communicate with what's in frame. Here's what I mean. We all know the real life story. Aaron Olson goes hiking through a canyon, tells nobody about it, as you do, and then gets his arm trapped when a 360 kg boulder falls on it. He is then stuck with little to no resources in a slot canyon, where nobody can hear or see him. In that moment, the title appears. 127 hours. Obviously referring to the amount of time he will be spending being stuck. I think it's a great title reveal and a chilling one, with how it plays with the narrative. For the next film, we only add a minute. That's right, we're looking at the 17th minute mark with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The titles come in as we cut to Jim Carrey crying in his car, and I take no enjoyment out of watching Jim Carrey cry. But alas, this is not only a very minimal title, but it's also where the film pulls that rug underneath you without you realizing. It's not only the title sequence, but also the scene that breaks the chronology of the film, and with how the film is structured, and the titles being as minimal as they are, as the audience you don't assume anything, let alone a time jump into the past. That's what the film does here. We jump to the first breakup, the one that started it all, since that's where the story truly begins. The 17 minutes that came before it are the present, and now we're jumping back.
I love you.
We are treated to another 17th minute mark with Good Time. Okay, no, we're not. Good Time titles come in at 7 minutes into the film. Plus 10, boom, 17 minutes, that's when you have the opening credits. And it counts in my book. It has the same effect. It catches you off guard, it sets the stage for what's to come, and it makes you shuffle in your seat one last time whilst rubbing your hands together in excitement. If we look at reason 458 of why I love Good Time, we'll find that the title card and the opening credits are thematically connected. Well, somewhat. The title card comes up after Connie disrupts his brother's therapy session and gets him out of there. We see that he is stubborn on what he believes is best for his brother, that he looks out for him. 10 minutes later, the opening titles were greeted with the premise of the film. They fuck up, the brother is arrested, and Connie wants to get him out of there and look out for him. Next up, we're breaking the 17th minute mark with The Departed. Although I shit you not, the title appears on a card at the 17th minute, but the actual title card comes in at a minute after, at 18 minutes. How nice to see that late titles are appreciated by Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker as well. In preparation for this video, I have been revisiting some of these films, and I had no plans on watching the whole of The Departed again, but it's impossible not to finish it after watching just a minute of the film. 1 minute in, you hear the intro to Gimme Shelter by the Stones to Jack Nicholson smoking, and the next thing you know, the credits are rolling. You know what other Scorsese films use Gimme Shelter? Casino and Goodfellas. So you know this one's a classic from minute one. The film wastes no time cooking on gas, as we watch mob boss Frank Costello put Colin Sullivan under his wing, using him to infiltrate the police, while the police select fresh recruit Billy Costigan to go undercover as a criminal. Leo in a jail cell, Dropkick Murphy starts playing, and boom, title. The cat and mouse game begins. It's beautiful. I couldn't stop watching after this point onwards. I put the video aside, put the script aside, and I was like, this is my night now. Now that is the power of a title card that gets you pumped.
last minute, but things leak. This lead came from Queen's undercover guy. I'm gonna have a smoke right now. You want to smoke? You don't smoke, do you? Right? What do you want, all those fitness freaks? Huh? Go fuck yourself.
It goes without saying that while all these titles are late, they're all purposeful and never mischievous for the sake of being so. And it also goes without saying that a late title is only as effective as what comes before it. Which brings me to our next film. Babylon has the title card at a whopping 31 minutes into the film. The first half an hour of the film consists mostly of the unhinged, hedonistic party sequence, which personally I wasn't the biggest fan of. Although I didn't like Babylon too much, I did think it got better after this point onwards. Whilst watching it, I felt like the film kept trying to prove its mastery to me on all cylinders, and I was never able to fully immerse myself in its world because I never once believed in it. And I think I felt this the most in the opening 30 minutes. So this title sequence, while late, did nothing for me. On paper, I liked the idea of throwing the audience straight into this manic blowout, where just like Manny, we feel misplaced, yet thrilled by it all, who then finds himself tucking the biggest producer in Hollywood to bed, who promises him a place on the
most magical place in the world.
And title. Once again, on paper, I like it. If this whole thing was just another Wednesday for this guy, what's his life like? How is a movie set the most magical place on earth? How far will Manny and Nelly go to achieve their dreams? It engages you with what's to come, but only if what you've seen so far clicked for you, which in this case didn't for me, and revisiting it for this video didn't change my mind on it either. But I know it worked for many. A lot of my friends love it, so I wanted to include it in this video. We've come to the half an hour mark now, which brings us to a title card that functions slightly different from the ones I've listed previously. Before I tell you what it is, I'm going to list those 3 films, give you 5 seconds, see if you can figure it out. The films that do this are Fresh at 33 minutes into the film, Kill at 45 minutes into the film, and Climax at 46 minutes into the film. All these films switch the fucking gear, meaning they all introduce a stark change in tone after the title card. A contrast in tone is obviously not uncommon in film, but introducing that with the title card is, and I find it, how can I say, raw, hard, cold. I love it. I absolutely love it. Even if I don't love the film, I will at least love that about it. In Fresh, the title comes in as a twist, revealing us the true plot of the film. Up until this point, it fools the audience into thinking that it's a rom-com, including the tiring tropes of rom-coms we've seen too many times, only to then reveal that, surprise, he just drugged her and he's a cannibal. As I've said before, even if I don't love the film, I will at least love that about it. It's a great title reveal and an even better one if you were unsuspecting of the tonal shift. It's an eerie reveal and it sort of parallels Sebastian Stan's attitude in this scene. It's like the film's way of saying, well, on that note, we can finally start. If we lived in a different world where a film's marketing didn't have to reveal the tricks it has up its sleeve to sell itself, then perhaps I would have gone into Fresh completely blind. But we don't live in that world, and I didn't see Fresh blind, but I can't help but wonder how that would have been like. The title card for Kill doesn't pull the rug underneath you like Fresh does, but it still has a trick up its sleeve that comes in as a surprise. The film, if you don't know, is a very recent action film, and it's a I'm not trapped in here with you, you are trapped in here with me type action film, a la Die Hard and The Raid, that takes place on a train that is being hijacked. While there's no shortage of violence in the first 45 minutes, it really amps up after the title card, where we see our protagonist at his lowest, and the title card pretty much sets the stage for the violent catharsis that is to follow, and it kicks ass. The title card makes you rub your hands together because you know what's coming, you know they're all fucked. You might not be expecting the violence, but you know bodies will be hitting the floor. Speaking of bodies on the floor, Climax! Yes, once again, things escalate quite intensely after the title card, which is Okay, fine. It's not a title card, but opening credits. Kind of. Can you even call it that at 46 minutes into the film? Doesn't matter. The film has credits in the very beginning, and they could have easily included these names on there as well. But it is a stylistic and a storytelling choice there to signal to us that things are about to escalate. The film will show its true colors. If you go in absolutely blind, not knowing anything about the film or even who Gaspar Noé is, it still works. Why? Because the film opens with this. So even though you are treated to amazing dance choreography for the majority of the first half, you know at some point shit will hit the fan. Seeing credits pop up at the midway point communicates that clear as day. I remember actually being on edge when the titles appeared, just thinking to myself, fuck, I was enjoying this. But here we go. This is the cinematic equivalent of the airplane seatbelt sign. Kill and fresh included. The other thing that connects all these films together is the fact that they're all contemporary films, with Climax being the oldest of the bunch, and that's just 6 years old from the time I'm recording this video. I wonder if this will be an editing and a storytelling technique that we'll see more of in the future, and if we do, will it still feel special? Although, yeah, it is a storytelling and editing technique, so as long as it's done well, it probably will be good. Unless I am mistaken and there's a lot of films that introduce a tonal shift with the reveal of the title card. If so, let me know. Sorry for the change in continuity. Just pretend nothing's changed, like everything's like how it was before, and let's move on. We now have reached the 40-minute mark with late titles, and we have 2 more films left. The first one seems to be on a lot of people's minds when talking about late opening titles. While preparing this video, I would ask people if they had any films in mind when thinking about late titles, and this would be the one that I heard the most frequently. I'm talking about Drive My Car. It's not only one of the most talked about films of 2021, the late opening titles are also one of the most talked about moments in film of that year. Before I even got to see the film, I knew about the late titles, just because people wouldn't shut up about it. If your circle wasn't talking about the late titles of Drive My Car in 2021, I don't know what to say, man. It's your life. I mean, the most popular Letterboxd review for this film is literally about this. I mean, what can I say? The people clearly yearn for late titles. The first 40 minutes of the film detail Yusuke's profession as a stage actor and director, but more importantly, his relationship with his wife, the infidelity in their marriage, and her sudden death, before revealing the opening credits. There is also a small time jump along with it, but I believe that it is the introduction of the opening credits that emphasize and allow us to contextualize all of this to be the film's prologue. It's a great touch that in a way separates the rest of the film as a fresh start to the story, even though it's been 40 minutes. It's the prologue that then ultimately helps deliver the film's emotional and thematic punch at the end. In each example, we have seen how title cards or opening credits are essentially used as a storytelling tool, and how different filmmakers and films have implemented it into their narrative. The last example, however, is one that functions a bit differently from the rest. So much so that you could say I'm cheating by including it on the list, but I don't think so. Drumroll please. At a whopping 75 minutes into the film, we have the title card for Mandy. People who haven't seen Mandy are probably wowed by this, while people who have seen it either agree with it being on the list or are telling me that, hey, that doesn't count. The film is divided in 3 chapters, and the last chapter just happens to be named Mandy, the title of the film. To which I say, yeah, exactly. I'm a sucker for good typography, and the titles here are amazing, and they of course parallel the atmosphere of the respective chapter. Just the design on these title cards is enough to give you an idea on what the tone of the chapter is. The Shadow Mountains. Alluring, peaceful, dreamlike, children of the dawn. Definitely not as nice, mysterious, sinister, the introduction of something evil perhaps. Mandy. Very metal. Very metal. Violent. people might die. And they do. The Mandy title card comes in right after Red Miller, that's Nicolas Cage's name in the film, Red Miller, after he forges a chrome battle axe to seek revenge for the death of his partner, you guessed it, Mandy. This chapter could have been titled something else, but the fact that this is the film's title, as well as the film's climax, makes it a very impactful reveal. Whether or not the chapter was named after the film, or the other way around, it doesn't matter. The point is clear. Nick Cage is out of the cage. There we have it. We have made it to the end. Maybe the film you anticipated didn't end up on the list. Whichever film it is, do let me know in the comments. I'm curious to find more. What you might have, however, realized is that I didn't include any blockbusters or franchise films. The James Bond films, Mission Impossible films, all these are not entirely alien to late film titles. I think some of them even have the titles appear after the 10th minute mark. However, I think with those films, you know there's a title sequence that is going to show up. It's never a surprise when they do eventually appear. One of the reasons why late title cards are as effective as they are is because you can't really predict one. And when you're met with one, you can't help but just start rubbing your hands together in excitement of the film's trajectory. As I have said before, it's ultimately a storytelling tool. Being hit with a late title card can have different effects. Maybe it can stop you in your tracks. Maybe it disrupts a certain flow. Maybe it signals something. It is very interactive, I think. Maybe it could allow you to contextualize what you've seen so far with how it's going to fit into the larger narrative of what you're watching. It can prepare and excite us for what's next. And every time I'm left wondering, was this an editing decision or was this engraved in the script all along? It is a tool that, when used effectively, can achieve a multitude of things. And that's pretty much my take on it. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. My next video will be on...
Fuck yourself.
I'm tired from fucking your wife.
How's your mother?
Good, she's tired from fucking my father.
I don't know.